Welcome to the Industry Angel Podcast. We hear from the best business minds across the globe, entrepreneurs, social influencers, marketing mavens, and sales rock stars. We've got them all. Here comes your weekly dose of inspiration with your host, Ian Farah.
Welcome to episode 136 of the Industry Angel, because today, my friends, is a very special day. The kids are back to school. Now, wow, those holidays are tough. It's great to spend time with the kids, obviously, but not only do children love routine, we do too. So a big shout out to all you home workers and self-employed. You've no doubt juggled your time, relied on friends, family, kids clubs. You've made it. Well done. And I hope you aren't feeling guilty either. I've got friends who drop their kids off at sports clubs and then feel that they aren't coming up to scratch as a parent. Rubbish. There isn't a manual for this stuff. You do what's right for you. And the kids love those sports camps anyway. Great for people skills. My consistency's dropped as well in the holidays. Sorry for that. You don't want to hear kids screaming on the vacuum cleaner anyway. And I've also been crazy busy. A quick heads up. I'll be speaking on the 10th of September at the personal development conference, The Power of You. It's in Newcastle. You can hear from 6 great speakers. And I've got a discount code for you. Take the ticket down to just a crazy £30. You can grab a ticket from industryangel.com, click through to the Eventbrite link, and use the code, wait for it, Industry Angel. How original. Okay then, let's hear from today's guest. Today we have another friend of the show returning and joining the Two Timers Club. Not the best name, but hey, it just means you've got to come back for a third. Welcome back to the Industry Angel, publicity expert Sharon Bolt.
Hello, Ian. I love that. Thank you so much for inviting me into the Two Timer Club. I feel honoured.
Don't tell your partner, okay? It's between you, me, and the hundreds of listeners.
Fantastic.
I should say millions of listeners, shouldn't I?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's just stretch the truth a bit. So lovely to have you back with us. You reached out. I tell you what it is. We just talked a little bit offline there about me getting guests on this show and how hard it is, I find, because what you really got to keep in mind is that your listenership, your audience are the most important bit of this podcast. And what I don't want to do is waste their time for half an hour on somebody that is really all about themselves. You know, it's a big sales pitch. Check out how great I am.
Yes.
And I see a lot of these pitches come through and they're just standard pitches, you know, copy and paste. And what I love about you, Sharon, you put the effort in, you listen to a couple of episodes, you think, yeah, that's a good fit for me. You tell me why you liked it, this kind of thing. You're dead good at it. But other people just don't want to put in the time. So I wrote an article on this about how to get gigs on, how to get features on podcasts. And I think, what is it? I think it was about a 20-point list. You'll have to take a look at it. But it's really just making sure it's all about the host and the audience and not about them, isn't it?
It's so true, Ian, isn't it? And I think it's one of the most common errors that business owners make. And then it's sad because, of course, they then think, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. Publicity is for everybody else, but it doesn't work for me. And it is. It's about the mantra is, what can I do for the host and the show and the listeners and the audience? What can I contribute? What can I do for them rather than what's in it for me?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I did a video the weekend. Again, you'll have to have a look on LinkedIn now. I was sat in a graveyard. This sounds mad. It was really windy and I was training, so I thought I'll just have a bit of shelter. And I had a backpack on and I was looking at my backpack and I found a letter that I'd received that week. And it was from a company that were trying to get my business for business cards and pop-up banners and brochures and stuff. And I took a pen and I circled every time I saw the word we. And there was 14 we's in this letter. We were founded 25 years ago. We have a no quibble money back guarantee. We can do this for your brand. It's just we all the time. I was like, wow. So I picked up my phone and I had a rant for about 2 minutes about more you and less we.
It's so true. It's so true, isn't it? I think it seems to be like the old marketing is where you needed to prove yourself that that you were the expert in the field. You were the person that person should hire because you've got all these credentials. But we're human, and this is where I think people forget. We're human beings. We like to connect with people, and for somebody just come in and if you met somebody in I don't know, in a social gathering or something, and all they spoke about is themselves, you'd think, getting a bit bored now.
Yeah,
It has to be an exchange.
as you said, I think the first bit of that paragraph you mentioned, you just said there was something like old marketing, and that's exactly what I did. I said no longer is it the 1980s.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's all about storytelling today, isn't it? All about connecting with people and reaching out to people. And when you're just trying to say that you are this person that is the best person for the job, I do think, you have to include elements of that. Of course you do, because you need that connection, but then that person needs to be able to back it up, of course. But when the whole focus is about you need to hire me because I'm this great, wonderful person and the best person for the job, and you forget to connect with people and that you're speaking to a human being, I think that's where it goes dreadfully wrong.
Definitely right. Let me remind my audience from last time we spoke, Sharon, because you were just throwing value bombs left, right, and centre. I had loads of good feedback. You were talking about specific pitches for media channels, talking about doing research, finding the best journalists, creating stories, dealing with haters. We discussed tips for pitch and that sort of stuff, which was great. Real good value, as I say. So this time around, what have you got for us, Sharon?
Well, I want to go further and deeper into the how to tell stories the media won't ignore, because I think it's all about storytelling today. It is almost as if we've leaped into a different way of doing things in our marketing, and also when we're pitching journalists. It's all about storytelling and what stories you have. And I think it may be of value to your audience here just to go through, because there are actually 5 stages of storytelling that I'm going to go through, so people can. I've got something that that to bring it to life. I've got a story that people can relate to, and to really hopefully give some perspective for people.
That sounds perfect. I'm dying to jump in, but I'm gonna back off. I'm biting my tongue. The floor is yours.
Lovely. Well, the first thing to say is that journalists are professional storytellers. They tell stories all the time. That's their job. That's their living. So when you, as a business owner or an entrepreneur, get really good at storytelling, then you are ticking their boxes. So I think there is an art of storytelling, and you may not quite have realized it before, but when we look at the great films and the exciting fictional books, they have something in common, and there are actually 5 specific stages. And the best way to explain this is to, I think, give an example. And I'm going to choose I think we all know it. We may not have seen this film, but it was a box office blockbuster. And the film I'm choosing here is Bridget Jones's Diary. Now, as I say, it doesn't matter if you've seen the film or not, because I'm going to briefly explain what happens and how these 5 stages are incorporated. Now, the reason I'm going to go through this, Ian, is because we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We just need to follow the same format that the experts do that's got to these blockbuster films and these best-selling books. So this is the format that I'm going to go through. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so stage 1. So bearing in mind, I'm back to this Bridget Jones's Diary film. So stage 1, it's really about setting the scene. And, in the film, it starts out pretty bland and non-eventful. We've got British Jones is a single woman. She's working she's got a good job with a bunch of good friends to hang out with in the evenings and on weekends. Life plods on without too many ups and downs. So really stage one is about introducing the main characters and setting the scene. So it's not really, it doesn't take up too much time, it's just the introduction. So then it goes on to stage two, and that's where something happens that upsets the apple cart. Now, in the film, Bridget meets two very different men. One of the men is called Daniel Cleaver, and he's the so-called bad boy who she finds irresistible. And the second man is called Mark Darcy, who is strong, solid, and dependable, and who she feels is just a little bit boring and not quite so interesting. So that's stage two. Now, in stage three of the film, realization happens. And Bridget realizes that bad boy Daniel Cleaver is no good for her, that he's not serious about her, and that she would far rather be with the dependable Mark Darcy instead. So that's stage three. Stage four is where Bridget tries to resolve the problem. She tries to win back Mark Darcy, which involves many embarrassing situations and awkward moments. And if you've seen the film, you'll know that it ends in a fight between the two men. It gets quite dramatic. So that's stage four. And then stage five in the film is where the problem is solved and balance is restored. So Bridget gets together with Mark Darcy, they confess undying love for each other, and peace and harmony is restored. So if you've seen the film, you'll know from these stages that there's not much airtime given to stages 1 and 5 where everything is going well. In fact, if you've ever read a book or watched a film and it takes too long to get to stages 2 and 4, well, things just go two to four, which is where the things go wrong and the drama happens and there's many setbacks whilst the problems is being resolved. Well, if it just takes too long, you simply lose interest. So how can we integrate this storytelling philosophy into how the media works? Well, I think you're probably one step ahead of me here because you're probably realizing already that they want to know about the stages 2 to 4. That's where they fill their column space up and their airtime with, and that's where something upsets the apple cart, realization happens, and then how the problem is solved. So they're not very interested in hearing about just about a well-behaved dog or what your business is turning over and where, you know, that your children have got all A's in their exams. That stage 5 where the problem is solved and harmony is restored, it may get a few lines, but they want to know how you got there, what obstacles you overcame, and how you resolved it. That's what the story is and what gets the journalist's attention. Does that make sense, Ian?
It certainly does. And I mean, the thing that crops to my mind straight away is, what if we don't have stories and what if you haven't gone through adversity? What do we do?
Well, that's a really good question because I think there's probably listening to this now thinking, yeah, but I didn't go bankrupt and sleep on my best friend's couch and now I'm a multimillionaire. It's not a rags to riches type story. And you know, hopefully for many of us, that's not our story. I mean, if that is our story, naturally that's going to get media attention. But, you know, it doesn't have to be quite like that. It could be, you know, as simple as if you was like a health and diet expert, then your story could be how you resolved your weight issue, how you lost the weight and the journey that took you. Or it could be that it could be anything. It could be whatever you overcame. It doesn't have to be where people are like, "Oh my goodness, that's something else." It could even be something like, You have children, you want to be part of their life, you couldn't spend the time you wanted with them because you couldn't take them to school and pick them up because you had a regular 9 to 5 job. So your mission and your passion and why you started your business was simply because you wanted to spend more time with your children. That would be your
Do you
story.
ever find people that saying, "Oh, I haven't really got a story. It's boring. Nobody wants to hear from me"?
Yes, all the time. People think that they have no interest in stories to tell the media. And you do. Everybody has a story. And one of the ways to really bring it to the surface is that if, for example, you were in a business social gathering, maybe it's a networking event or something like that, and you're meeting other business owners, what questions do they ask you? And when you explain what it was, because most of the time people say, well, what do you do for a living? And how did you come about doing that? What parts of your story sort of like makes their eyes go wide? What do they want to know more about? That's your story. It doesn't have to be earth shattering or mind blowing. That's your story.
Excellent stuff. Great. So, how do you get that to the media then? How do you get that to the relevant journalist?
Well, that would depend on what type of niche that you're in.
Okay.
So for example, that's what would be really important now is that if we're looking for the right journalist, then we need to make sure that they write or they work for the type of outlet that we want to be
Yeah.
featured on. So for example, if you worked in, say you were a car salesman, so you may look and think, wow, I love that car magazine. That's my favorite magazine. I know that's where a lot of my people that my clients would read. This is going to be a good publication for you to target. And that's when you would look to see who the journalist is. And one of the areas into that could be your story. Now, bearing in mind, your business story is only one area that you can get into a publication or onto a show. I mean, there are other types of stories like it could be anything from just something a bit quirky. It could be how you're doing things differently. It can really be anything that is something different or something new that you're doing, or as I said, how you've overcome something. And also research the show or the publication, because you will then know what type of stories they like to feature. It could be that in that magazine every week they dedicate a section to someone's journey, someone's story. So there's an ideal fit for you to pitch that type of story idea. Or it could be that they want something about how somebody's doing something new and you are doing something new. Not many of your competitors are doing that and you are having great success. So that would be a great story angle for you to pitch to them instead.
We're talking about journalists, Sharon. Do you find that your clients or yourself, do people tend to target those, or are people pushing through social media mostly now?
Well, the great thing with social media is it does allow you to build relationships with journalists. And this is, I think, is a new thing, like the old marketing that we were just mentioning about, you just sort of like almost forcing yourself on somebody saying, I'm really good at this. You need to get me on your show, that type of thing. The great thing with social marketing is that you can start to build a relationship with your ideal journalists. So, say, for example, it's fairly easy to find the journalist. Say it was I don't know, a newspaper. Say it's a national newspaper, and you study the publication on a regular basis. You can see what sections, what type of story angles and ideas they like to include. Is it a human interest story? Is it somebody doing something wrong and overcoming that? Or is it that they just like, 10 different ways to achieve something? It could be any type of angle that they like that you then would pitch to. So once you've found what the journalist's name is, and they very often write their name after the articles that they've written because they want your stories. This is, I think, something quite different from what business owners tend to think, is that journalists want you to pitch them, but they don't want you to. It's like what you were saying, Ian. You've got a great show here, and you'd love lots of great guests to pitch you. You want the right guests to pitch you, the ones that are going to give you good content and great entertainment for your show. So you want to be pitched because it makes your job easier. It just needs to be
Yeah.
the right people and done right. So that's true with the nationals. That's true with the radio and the TV. It's a nightmare for these researchers, reporters, for the journalists in general to come up with great guests and story ideas that they constantly need to churn out. When you think about a TV program, like, for example, something like This Morning that we have here in the UK, that's a daily show from Monday through to Friday where they constantly have to get good guests and good ideas and stories on the show. So if you turn up and you give them a great pitch because you've studied the publication or watched the show, you know what type of angles they like, and you deliver it by always pitching, as we said earlier, about what you can do for them and their audience. And then that way, that's where you're going to, get their attention. So back to the social media, that's where once we've found who our ideal journalist is, we go looking for them on social media. And they're easy to find, particularly on Twitter. Almost all journalists are on Twitter. And that's where you read their posts, and when you do like what they post, you naturally like it, you comment, you share. It's not done in a false way. This isn't just a case of you sharing things and commenting just because you want them to feature you. This is getting to know somebody so that when you do pitch them, they already know you because they've seen you. They've seen that you are putting yourself out for them and supporting them. So, of course, when you do get to pitch them, which I never recommend on social media, I always recommend via email. So always social media is about being social and building relationships. And I would, as I say, always suggest that you pitch via email unless they ask to be pitched on Twitter, which some of them do. Some of them say, I'm writing an article on X, Y, and Z. Have I got anybody here that could help and contribute? Then absolutely you do. But otherwise, I would never suggest to pitch on social
that's
media.
good stuff. I want to jump into something that you've said a couple of times when we spoke, and it's the word expert. I need you to help me here because I struggle with this because sometimes if I'm speaking somewhere or I'm being introduced into another show or whatever, they'll call me an expert in a certain topic, and it worries me because I think I'm not an expert. I can't be, and even when I'm 80, I wouldn't call myself an expert because there's so much still to learn. Get me into the mindset where I can call myself an expert, please.
Well, yes, because I'm going to tell you right now, you are an expert. So I know you're not going to like that, but yes, you are. You even like that. You have this wonderful show. There are certain things that we do that just shouts expert, and being a host of a successful podcast show automatically says that you're an expert. It does, whether you like it or not, Ian, it does. And you are. And so there are things like that. But let me tell you about the Oxford English Dictionary, what they say, what that actually says about the definition of an expert. And what it said, and I quote here, an expert is a person who is very knowledgeable about or skillful in a particular area. Now, that doesn't say you need to know everything about everything. It doesn't say that you have to have been in business for 10 plus years. it really says that you need to know more than most people about what you specialize in. So that's the mindset to have. You do know, and I think this is for all us business owners and entrepreneurs. We seem to think that what we know, everyone knows. It's easy because it's easy for us. So, of course, everybody knows that. And they really don't. That's why they come to us.
That's a really good point. And I remind myself quite a lot about this. When I'm speaking, I've heard what I'm going to say numerous times, and I'm sure you have as well. And what I find is sometimes I say it quite quickly
Yes.
and just quite flippantly. And I've actually
Yes.
got to remind myself that the audience are hearing this for the first time. So just cool your jets in and just, pronounce it, nicely.
It's so true, isn't it? But I mean, I think it is. I think it's our upbringing. We were told, you don't shout about yourself. You shouldn't be big headed, and you should be modest and perhaps wait for other people to tell you that you're really good at something. And okay, and I think we've all had perhaps that upbringing. But if you're not able to put your best step forward and claim that position, then the media are like, well, who are you? What have you got to offer? They want somebody who is confident. They want somebody who says, do you know what? I can entertain and I can inform and educate your audience. And this is how I can do it. And by the way, these are my credentials.
Fantastic.
That's a pitch.
No, I love that. Now you've got a new masterclass out, haven't you?
I have, yes. I've from time to time I do different things that I give away on my website, but I've recently put together. It's as you say, a masterclass. It's called 5 Steps that gets you in front of thousands of your dream clients and positions you as the go-to expert in your niche without blogging, using Facebook ads, or any tech. So people can go and get that. My website is getfreepublicitytoday.com, and it's just there. You can just sign up for that and you can watch that. And it's full of content. It's full of the 5 steps and how you can do it.
Can you tell us the 5 steps, or do we need to sign up?
Well,
You're on the spot. Yeah.
I can give you a little. I can give you a little taster.
Go on, while you're here.
I go very much into how to tell your business story and how to put your business story together. Because we've been talking about this, haven't we? Whether it's to do with marketing, whether it's to do with the media, we need to sort of like get clear on our business story. So that's one of the things that I include. And I'll give you another little taster, and that is about your mindset. It's about this self-belief, that we are an expert, and we don't have to always say we're an expert. We don't have to, it does seem strange to me too if I'm meeting somebody and they say, what do you do? For me to say I'm a PR expert does sort of like feel a little bit strange. But there's other ways that you can do that, in the fact that, for example, if you have been interviewed on different media in different media outlets, of course you are seen as an expert. If, for example, you have written a book or even co-authored a book, I've co-authored 2 published books. So, of course, that goes very well. That automatically says you're an expert. I mean, the titles of these 2 books for me is Women in Business and An Entrepreneur's Guide to Running a Business. So, it's in line with what I do. So there are other ways that you can do it, but you could just be a problem solver, and you would back it up with statistics about, maybe it's a new app that you've invented and that you've sold, I don't know, 100,000 of them. You don't have to say that you're in words that you're an expert. The fact that you've got those types of results just says to people that you're an expert. So that's, I think, a nice way to do it.
Good stuff. I love that. So the mindset piece, super important. You know what? I thought about there was about self-rejection. I see a lot of this, I can't apply for that job. I won't get it. I'm not going to send that email because she won't reply just immediately before they've even pressed submit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to send that
Yes.
article because they'll think it's rubbish. It's like, just get it sent.
That's right. And also, what I like to do is I'm very, very hot with mindset. It's for me, if I can give people the best strategy and, just works for so many people. But if there's no mindset included in it, so like you said, if I say to people, look, here's the exact format for you to follow and that has got success for so many people before, and that person is saying to themselves, yeah, but it won't work for me, and I'm not really very good at what I do, and I think I've got lucky, then it is not going to work for them. So mindset is really high on my agenda.
Good to hear. I think it's a bit in vogue though, isn't it, as well? People are starting to be a bit more open to listening to that now.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Yes, I'm seeing that as well. I've always it's about telling yourself a good story. I've for me and the experiences I know, we don't have time to go through all of these types of things, but certainly for me, I tell myself an empowering story before I'm going to do something. So before we've met today, Ian, I've sat down and I've closed my eyes for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and I've already played that out in my head that we're going to have fun, that it's going to be educational for people, that it's going to flow, it's just going to go really well. So I've played out that successful story before I've even come and done this interview with you, because that's what I'm looking as my intention and my outcome.
That's a great top tip. But did you actually know you'd be joining the Two Timers Club, Sharon?
No, you see, you pulled the rug from under my feet with that one.
All that preparation was just gone in a flash. Right, my friend.
Yeah,
Well,
that
I was going to say that was amazing. Thanks so much for your time again. We've just done half an hour, like a shot. Is there anything else you want to leave us with, Sharon, before you go?
Well, I just think to people, I suppose if there's imparting information I'd like to give to somebody is, don't wait for somebody else to tell you you're good enough and your idea. Don't wait for others to validate you. That's your job. That's your job to look at the evidence that you see, to take on board when people say, wow, you're really good at that and I've got these results. So telling yourself you're good enough, don't wait for other people to do that because they're busy doing other stuff. You can't rely on other people, but you can rely on yourself.
Love that. Be your own cheerleader.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously, I'll put the links in the show notes. So if people want to jump on there and hear more about your 5 steps to get in front of thousands.
Absolutely. Or millions, whether it be your show.
Millions. Yeah. I did drop the clang in there, didn't I? I even said hundreds, which is crazy. I mean, that. Okay, Sharon, thanks so much. Take care now.
Thank you, Ian.
Thanks to our Sharon. So, my friends, you may be doing some fantastic stuff, but if you don't tell us about it, it isn't happening. You do have a story to share. Target your audience, put yourself in their shoes, think about their challenges and what value you can add. Check my LinkedIn profile for my latest video about this as well. Less we, more you. Weirdly set in a cemetery. So, Angel Army, until next time, I'm Ian Farah. This is the Industry Angel, and thanks for listening.